one part of my experimental work. And I also have a YouTube channel about experimental photography and a lot of weird experiments with vintage lenses, modified lenses, and forgotten techniques. And that's
my name is Clare. I am an analog photographer from the UK. I have been shooting film, gosh, since I was a kid. I've been doing a lot of experimental stuff for over 10 years, and also probably since 2016 touching my head. And I do a lot of multi-exposures with architecture, but primarily portraits for the last year or so. And I did have a YouTube channel. I am possibly going to bring it back, where I do talk about multi-exposures and films and something as well. And
I'm Clare. I come from Wales in the UK. I shoot mostly with film, but also 35 film, and I do a lot of multiple exposures with my work. It's not everything I do. And I'm going to sort of show you some examples of doing multiple exposures with Polaroid. Some that I did 10 years ago with more toy cameras, Volvos and Diana cameras, because I love these cameras. And some that I'm doing in the dark. So I appreciate as well that there's probably people in the room that what I'm going to say is they already know the knowledge of it. There's people in the room who know the multiple exposure.
So I try to mix analog and digital. So I use mainly analog tools on a digital camera, and then I mix everything in Photoshop. I also use analog techniques. I will show you at the end of what kind of old techniques I use to mix in my multiple exposures. So first, I do mainly portraits. So first, really simple digital double exposures. So I only shoot using vintage lenses. Everything is shot on vintage lenses on a mirrorless full-frame camera. And for the portraits, I shoot on a pure white background, so I place the model in front of a big LED projector, and I put the power to the max, and I try to have a really sharp silhouette of the model. And sometimes I add a second light in front to get back some details of the face. The important is to have some contrast in some dark parts, so that the second image will be more easy to see. So I use, in Photoshop, I use a really small amount of tools to do the double exposure. So first I need two images for double. I need the model and I need a second image. It can be anything, but you need to have some colors or at least some light tones in the image to mix in the dark tones of the first image. Then you go to your layers and you just put the second image in fusion mode screen. And of course the third image is not the next step, but you get the idea. It means the dark parts stay dark, and the white parts of the second image will appear in the dark parts. So it works really well with natural elements, with vegetation. The most important part in the second image is to add some really pure white. So when you add some, like the image on the right, if you have pure white, you can create holes in your portrait, and that's when the shape of the human body starts to tremble, and that's the most interesting part for me. When you understand it's a human figure, but you start to question yourself and you want to know more about the process of the image. So with vegetation works really well. You can also mix, so everything that is white, so waterfalls, or you can also mix macro and portraits. It's not portraits, it's hands, but for this one I shot just a little stone with a hole in it, and I use organic texture to mix with the hand. So it's not like really gore with a lot of blood, it's just like the texture of the stone, and on the end of the arms I get the same texture. So it's a mix of really close macro of the stone, and it's because you have pure white behind, the effect works. So it also works on black background. So on black, everything which is black on the second image will mix with the black of the first image. So only the colors will remain. So it works really well with bright colors like the goldfish, and it works on her vest, on her hair, and on the second one you still have the reflection of the water of the second photo running on the background. So you need to, when you create your double exposure, you always need to remember which part will mix, and that's the hardest part, and for me it's always really difficult, so I need to do a lot of tests before finding the right combination. So then you can have multiple exposures, so I mix more than 2 images, so it can be as many as you want, and you can, I just take some parts that I like the branches with the little bird, and I try to erase parts of the skull of the portrait. And yeah, for me, double or multiple exposure is not so different. When you start to change some aspects of the structure of the image, it's not even exposure anymore, it's more like work in real Photoshop work, and that's the next part. So you can mix, like on this one you have like 4 or 5 different images, and you have to remember that the white is like paint, and each layer of photo contains some pure white, will cover the layer under it, like if you use white paint. So you need to remember that, and you can erase part of the image, but you can also keep some parts by moving around the layers. And yeah, so you can add as much images as you want, but the final result, me, I like to keep some human aspect, because if it's totally abstract, I don't like it so much. One other thing that works really well in double exposure is fire, because fire contains some pure white, and some the colors of fire are really close to the skin tones. So I mixed simple images of fire with she was wearing a flower crown, and I did some fast lighting with RGB light around the head of the model, and then I just added some flames and some effects, fire effects around her face, but it's still the same technique, exactly the same technique as the double exposure, just using the screen mode on Photoshop. And the same thing works on the right, because all the dark parts are mixing, the white stay white. So for fire, you can only apply fire on the body of the model. Then you have another option, is to do RGB double exposure. So you mix 2 images, but you keep just 1 color channel for each image. So it's pretty simple to do, and you take, like, you keep the blue one for the first image and the red one for the second image. Of course, if the model is moving a little bit between the 2 images, you have some interesting effects. Or you can have the same image, but just moving the layer just a little bit to have like a 3D, fake 3D effect. And then you can do triple RGB filter exposures. So that's a technique called trichromy, and that's a really old technique used in analog to get colored image with black and white images. So what I do is I shoot 3 images using 3 different RGB filters, plastic filters. The most shitty is it, the better the image will work. And then I mix the 3 images in Photoshop. And if anything moves between the 3 shots, you get some colored artifacts. So on the first image, I asked her to put her hand in front of the sun. Then I told her move the hand, and for the 2 next images I shot the same image. So on the green filter, the shadow was there. On the 2 other ones, it was not. So the shadow is green, and you can see on the hair, on the shoulders, and even on the background that you have a lot of artifacts because I moved like just a little bit. I don't like to use tripod because if you use a tripod, the image is too perfect. And on the second one is the same. I move just a little bit, so the Eiffel Tower is all crazy, but the girl is clean because I tried to focus on her face, and this time she didn't move. But you can see on the small hairs on the side, she had some wind or something that moved just a little bit, and you have some artifacts, and in the light too. So just to show you really fast, so you shoot 3 colored images with the filter in front of your lens. So I built a kind of really shitty rig with 3 filters connected by cardboard, and I move click. And I did that under a tree, so when the leaves of the tree move in the sun, you have a really slight movement between the shots. And so you can see some artifacts on her face. You have some blue, you have some red. If it was perfectly the same image 3 times, you would have a perfectly colored image. So it can be really interesting to also shoot on a tripod and try to be the most perfect image ever, because you will get a really nice colored image. But just because you click on the button or just a micro movement, we create some really light artifacts. With me, I like when you have really big artifacts. And finally, you can use the same technique in video, in Photoshop, to create video double exposures. It's exactly the same. You just have to remember that everything that is pure white will appear on your glass. And so you just put your top image in screen mode in Photoshop and record your little. You import like a GIF or a video, and you export a new video. And you get that. And voila.
Okay, my name, as I said earlier, is Cook, and I am a photographer from the UK. I do a lot of multi-exposures, and I just want to talk to you guys about pictures that I've taken probably in the last couple of years. So I want to start with this picture in particular. Some of them will probably pop up again. This picture, in case you didn't know, is the Sydney Opera House. And I just took this one day while I was running around Sydney on my own. I visited last year for my brother's wedding. And so much so, my now sister-in-law has bought several prints of this because she's never seen the Sydney Opera House photograph like this. So I like to play with different elements, and I like to play with shapes. And the Sydney Opera House, for example, because it's such a unique building, I thought to try and do something completely different with it and just try and play with it. I was very lucky to get quite a solitude spot. on the, I want to say Coast Pier? On the dock, sorry. And I managed to get some straight shots. I had a good like, lens with me, and this was shot with a Nikon F100. So all the cameras I use for multi-exposures are Nikon F100, F2, and F3. So I brought mine with me today for the workshop later on today. And so I am a Nikon girl. I'm not against Canon or anything like that. But those are the cameras I primarily use. So I do shoot primarily on 35mm as well. So I just try and play around, because a lot of people do ask me about doing these kind of photographs, like how do you do the mirrored multi-exposures. Honestly, it's really simple. So I'll normally have what I call an anchor point. So there'll be a point in the viewfinder that I'll look at, and once I take the first exposure and keep the exposure the exact same, I'll flip the camera upside down and focus on that one point and make sure it's all lined up. So you need a good memory. But it's also a lot of practice as well. But normally, sometimes I'll do it on the same exposure, sometimes I'll do the second exposure one step lower or one step higher. It depends on what I want to come out a bit more. Here's some more shots from Sydney. And I believe this was taken on my LC wide by Lomography. And again, this was really simple, take one photo, flip it upside down, take another one. But again, I did have like what I call an anchor point. And that's how you can just line everything up like perfectly. And again, it does take a lot of practice, but once you get it, you got it. So there's another one there. Sydney's a really great city to like do these kind of photographs as well. So I went traveling last year. I went to Japan, and what I wanted to do was a little photo project that I've had in my mind for quite a while. And the idea of it was ghosts in cities. I wanted to do a multi-exposure series with some models to do some portraits. And I knew I was going to Osaka, which is a very light, very colourful city. And I shot this on cine still as well. So the first set of portraits were taken with my Nikon FM2, but I didn't take it with me. I bought an F3 while I was in Tokyo. And these portraits were about 4 months apart, so I had no idea what was on the photos. And that's like my big thing with photography is, especially analog, it's got this kind of magic to it that you just leave it to, you don't really leave it to it, like, it's the unexpected. It's like once you build up these skills, once you practice, you kind of know how to do these certain things. With these, I was incredibly lucky. And what I did was, so this was Audrey, and she was this lovely model. Her face has been used for one of the promo pictures for this festival as well. So I had the same set of all the models. I took their photographs, and then on my, I think it was the second to last night in Osaka, because it rained, and you can actually see a little bit of the rains in the photographs. And I just went out with like an umbrella hanging on my head, just going around taking photographs. And how I did that was, once I finished the roll of film, I marked on the film so I knew where to line it up again. So I had this film in my bag for like 3 months, like just waiting to be used at some point. And personally, I'm really happy with how they turned out. And there's one in particular that completely blew my mind. You'll probably pop up in just a second, because I just did not organise this properly, I do apologise. But also, with these photographs in particular, this is Juri. I use a lot of elements while I'm out and about. So this was taken in Tokyo. And in Tokyo, they like to use this fairy lights quite a lot. And she had no idea what I was doing when I was taking these photos. She was just like, why are you taking pictures of like the shop or something? So this is a lot of angle points, it's a lot of lining up. This would have been underexposed as well for the second shot. So I like to run lines across models' faces. I like to kind of censor, like use kind of censorship, like you know how you have black bars when you try and hide someone's identity, that sort of thing. This is from a trip to Hunter Valley in Sydney. So this was taken on, so the first shot was of the landscape and the sunset, and the second shot was taken in the pool. And the pool was completely still, so I just like tapped my toe in it, and everyone was watching, like, what are you doing? And so I got this really nice ripple effect. And personally, I really like this photograph. So there's a lot of ways you can like play with the environment around you and just try and create a lot more texture when you don't really have that much texture. So we're back on these ones again. I do apologise that these aren't organised properly. So back to the Osaka double exposure photos. These, the idea behind these photos was ghosts, was going to cities, seeing people that you may used to know. I do try and have some meanings to like some of my series, and you may see them, you may not. And this is the main one, okay, so this is the main shot that completely blew my mind when I saw it, and a lot of people thought this was edited, and it's not. This is completely in camera. I was incredibly fortunate how it just lined up. It looks kind of Blade Runner-esque, and yeah, I remember once I got my scan back, I was like, that can't be real, I didn't do that. And about this photo, from the first exposure to the second one, was 4 months apart. Even that kind of blows my mind a bit. I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything. I'm just like, how did they do that? But again, that's the thing about animal photography, especially doing multi-exposure. There's so much magic to it, and there's so much, like, if you have an idea and you want to execute it, then you got to trust yourself a little bit and have like an idea that you want to do, but not be so solid about it and just be like, I want to do these sets of portraits with these sets of lights and just see what happens. And this is a really good example of what you can achieve. Yeah, it's been posted a few times in like popular Instagram pages. It's quite funny because I've had people say this has been the editing inspo, and I'm like, that's sweet and everything, and that's nice because I'm not against digital editing or anything like that, but I have to say, it's not edited, it's real. And it doesn't take away from digital edits at all. But yeah, it just kind of goes to show what you can actually achieve with a bit of practice and just have a very loose idea. Yeah, and again, it was just like me going out, it was like 1 a.m. in Osaka, raining like crazy, and just seeing what was there, and there was so much there for like lights and the city, and it was absolutely incredible. And the girls did an incredible job as well of modelling, and they were all absolutely stunning over photographs. I like this one as well, but you can tell I made a mistake with these ones because the lights are upside down. So I needed to remember which way I shot the models first. So sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you don't. But this one is like a happy mistake. Not everyone notices it until I point it out and just say the lights are actually upside down. So this is actually a really old photograph of my friend Ali. And this was us out one day in our hometown in Sutton Coldfield. And I do try and use backdrops, like white backdrops. She was wearing a black hoodie that day. We were going back to her house. And this is a good example of using the environment around you and doing multi-exposures on the spot. And we were just walking to her house, and I noticed the light was really nice that day. It was around summertime, so I asked her if I could just take a picture of her against the wall. And then I noticed there were some daisies like near where we were standing, and I just took a shot of that. And it turned out a lot better than I expected, because we were just basically pissing around that day, and just walking around like our hometown, just being dumb kids basically. But again, that's the whole point of animal photography for me for multi-exposure. It is the play, it is the magic of it, and it is using what you got, because you never know when inspiration is going to hit you. So it's good to be geared up with a camera. Also, I like to use, I like to do these kind of shots. There's some better ones along the way. These were taken in Kuala Lumpur while I was traveling last year, so I went up that massive tower thing that they've got during sunset. And this, again, all the same exposure, nothing's been underexposed or overexposed. So this is actually a quadruple, so 4-time exposure of the sunset. So it kind of looks like an eye. So if you ever seen Lord of the Rings or anything like that, it looks kind of similar to that. So you can kind of tell like it's a little bit off in regards to the alignment and all that kind of stuff as well. But again, it's just like using an anchor point, having a point that you look at the viewfinder. It's good to have 1 or 2, just so you know where to line everything up. It will just help you if you want to get a completely straight, clean multi-exposure of this kind of style. I just thought I'd throw this up because in case you guys haven't seen this, this has been used for promo. What I did for this photo, I actually, because I had to explain to Pablo how I did this. This was using digital elements, so I designed some color shifts. Like, so on Photoshop I did this, just did splotches of color on like a black canvas, and then I took a photograph of it. I did this on a whole like roll of film. So when I did the exposures with the portraits, you get this really shifty colour effect going for all the photographs. And it turned out quite nicely, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a fogged effect without actually having to fog your camera. So here we go again. So again, I just made all these digital digital canvases, photographed them, rewound the film, marked it, and then shot on portraits again. So you get this really nice colour effect. And this is one of my favourite multi-exposures that I did last year, because this is what I mean by happy accidents and how the magic of analog, because I really like how the flower lines up with her eye, but also you get a really solid shot of the flowers there, and that's because I was using a light box. So again, using the elements around you, I had a stand by the light box, but also so I can get the black part of it. So that's how I get like the complete solid of the flowers there as well. And that's how it kind of like fades into her face a little bit. So again, using what's around you, using the blacks, using the whites, it does really help you a lot. This is another one where I downloaded a bunch of pictures. So I did do a YouTube video of this, and I will reactivate it at some point. Basically, on the NASA website, you can download their photographs to use artistically. Not commercially, but you can use them artistically. So I downloaded a bunch of pictures from NASA and photographed them, rewound the film, and that's how you get this like star galaxy effect. And again, this is like completely trusting, just going completely throwing caution to the wind, all that kind of stuff. And you do get like a really magical effect with this sort of things. You don't know what you're going to get sometimes, so you kind of have like a very loose idea, because I don't ever like to suddenly plan these kind of photographs and be like, this is exactly what I want. I just want to kind of go with the flow a little bit, bounce off the model, see what they want to do, and sometimes you turn out pictures like this, which I'm pretty proud of, because they do turn out rather magical and really nice. So I do recommend giving stuff like this a go if you ever want to do multi-exposures that are a bit different, but you don't, so you have a little bit of a loose idea of what you want to do. I love doing the galaxy effects. This is probably like one of my oldest techniques that I've done for quite a long time. And now back to jury and using the elements around you. I love using lights in the street. So even in Barcelona, I noticed there's so many little lights in shots, the fairy lights, string lights. And I'm just like, God, I wish I had someone here with me to do some photos so I could take a picture of them and then take a picture of like the lights. Because you do get some funny looks, but when you get someone with you, you don't feel so bad about it. And this is probably one of my favourite ones as well. So this is probably the best one that turned out, because the light in particular that I was using changed colour like every few seconds. So it was going like green, red, blue, and when I shot this, it just came out perfect. And this was using Revolog film, 600 nm, and I highly recommend using this film because I think they stripped away the red layer on it. I'm not 100% sure how they modified this film, but yeah, I absolutely loved how this turned out because it made the red so much more intense. And this is a film that this is actually another film, and this is a little bit cheating. There's a bit of controversy with this film, and it's Revolog's film. It's the light leak film, and what they've done, they double exposed the film to a series of light leaks, and then you use it yourself. And they sent this to me to test for them, and I wasn't so sure because I'm a bit like light leaks, but I'm actually really happy about this. I did not actually pick this film to shoot with jury. She picked this because I showed her some examples and explained to her what Revolog wanted me to do. And I was like, let's go for it. So personally, I'm really happy about this. So if you want to play it safe, if you really want to do multi-exposures, but you kind of want someone to do it for you, Revolog and Double Film do some excellent pre-exposed films. I do think they do turn out absolutely amazing. You can do this yourself with the effects that I did mention before. And this is a more recent photo. So I actually live in Brighton. I live in a very big building, which is really helpful to me. So I live by the sea. And I shot a model on one of my balconies, the public balcony. And just shot a picture of the street. I don't know if you guys know Brighton or anything like that. But it's like, this is a very popular strip that's down the road from it. And this was me, again, playing with it. I think this was still the same exposure as well. So again, this is playing with the environment and seeing what you got to play with. And it's kind of like you draw inspiration from shooting as well. So we were shooting on the stairs for this one, for example, and because I'm so high up and Brighton is like a hilly town where it goes down, you can see the buildings come down, and what I asked the model to do was actually look down, like she's looking down on a ghostly city. And again, a very good example of using the environment. So a few more from Tokyo. This was Akina. This is really funny. Someone actually commented me on Instagram saying this was photoshopped and this is fake, leaving a massive rant on my page, and I was a bit like, okay. I had to actually send him the negative because he was so adamant that this wasn't real, and it blows my mind how people can be a bit hostile over analog photographs. But again, this is a really simple photograph. There were so many lights in Tokyo. I just took a picture of her, and then I just spotted some fairy lights in a tree, took some photos, and that's how you get this one. And again, with lining it up, I didn't purposely mean to line up the eyes, but that's just how it happened. Again, this is a lovely one. This was in Harajuku, because we were shooting quite late because we were going to a party that night. We were killing a bit of time. We managed to find some street lights, and personally I'm quite happy with how this one turned out. This shot is taken on cine still, which is an incredible film. So it's an 800 film. Oh, it's 800. Yeah, so it's an incredible film to use for multi-exposures, especially at night, because you get a really nice red light bleed coming through it. So this is very similar to your work, but analog. So again, walking down the streets, found a massive white light sign, took a picture of Akina, and then literally turned the camera around and took a picture of the street. And it's just using what is around you can really, really help. So I know she was overexposed a little bit in the first portrait, and then the second one, just a normal exposure. So sometimes it works out. And as you can see with a lot of my work, lights are a big element. I really do like using light over the eyes. I'm really sad that in England we don't really have this kind of street lights, so I just have to use my own sometimes. But yeah, again, this is using the street light to highlight her face, and then spice some fairy lights that have been strung down and shot over this. And with the second shot of lights, I normally overexpose it or underexpose it. It really depends on what is around it. If it's completely black, then I just do a normal exposure. This was a really tricky one. So this was taken with Akina at a flower shop, and we actually had to hold up our phones over the lights, over the flowers, and I apologise. And this was to try and get a really flowery effect, and I was actually really worried about this one, so I just thought, is this going to come out? Because it looks a bit funny, and I'm actually really ecstatic how this came out. I overexposed the flowers, as you can see in this photo, because I was kind of in my head overcompensating a tiny bit. But personally, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And you can tell it's a little bit more lighter because we were walking around for a few hours. But again, it's using the environments. Go to a city with neon lights or get your own, because they're an excellent tool for multi-exposures. I think this is the last two. So this is with my friend Martin, who's also an analog photographer as well. And this was us doing our little photo walk in Hastings. And I just spotted this massive patch of flowers. And this is what I do recommend to you guys. Just go on photo walks with your friends. If you don't have a camera that doesn't have like a multi-exposure function, mark the film on the first frame, go shooting, and then wind it back and do it again. With my cameras, I do have a multi-exposure function, and I just took a portrait of him. He had no idea what I was doing. He's like, why do you want to take a picture of me? And with these kind of silhouettes, the trick is, if it's a really sunny day, have the sun directly behind their head, so it's a straight shadow of them. So that way you only get like a little bit of their features come out. And then take the second exposure of the flowers. And these are some of the older textured photos that I did. So I used to live in Tower Block in Birmingham. And this is like, again, the 4-time exposure of flipping the camera like all the way around. And again, I was really quite happy with how these ones turned out. But again, it's just playing with the sky, so playing with absolutely anything. But it's good to have a kind of idea of what you wanted to do. These some older ones. So this is like, these are a little bit older now. Again, this is my home city of Birmingham. I used to have an art studio with my friends, and we were quite high up, so we actually got a bit of a shot of the city. And again, this is a very simple, take one photo, flip it upside down, and take another one. But the trick with these kind of photographs is you need something going on. You don't want like a straight line, you don't want it to be too flat, because then it literally just looks like a lonely photograph. And this is in my home city of Brighton now. And again, you can actually tell that I kind of threw off the centre a tiny, tiny bit. This is why it's very important to have anchor points. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So if you have any questions later on, you can ask. Yeah, thank you for listening to me.
I'm Clare. I come from Wales in the UK. I work predominantly with instant film, exclusively, obviously work with 35 minutes as well. My comfort zone is shooting instant film in bright sunlight, and I do a lot of self-portraits. I use myself as different characters, so kind of this is my comfort zone, outside in bright sunlight. And a lot of my work is, as I always say, is influenced by film, cinema. I love the aesthetic of the 60s and 70s. I like the females of the time. So that's what kind of drives and inspires a lot of my work. I'm also influenced by kind of magic and counterculture of that time. I'm also, experimental photography appeals, I think, to my personality as well. I'm predominantly self-taught, although I live quite rurally, so I used to, for about 2 years or 3 years, I attended a night class. I had to drive 2 hours to learn how to do darkroom and darkroom printing. I like the following on from what Kate said. I like the kind of, when you're working with, for me, film anyway, I think it's very warm, and it's like, I always say, it's like a big hug. I like film. Experimenting different techniques, I think it appeals to my personality. I'm dyslexic as well, so I don't know if anyone in the room is dyslexic. Yeah, okay. So my learning style might be quite different from someone who's not dyslexic. It might be different from someone else who has dyslexia. It's all different. So I'm very much about learning by doing, and trial and error, and that's how I am. That's how I learn. Multiple exposures as well. I love them, and what drove me into multiple exposures as well is talking about what Kate said about the magic elements. I think they just bring another dimension to work, and I think they really can create a kind of a magic and a dreaminess and another worldliness. So that's kind of what drives my work. Because I work a lot with Polaroid film is expensive because people in the room are shooting Polaroid. So what I like is I actually think it makes you stop and really think and consider what you're going to do. So for me, like I'm sure a lot of people in the room, before I take an image, it starts in here. And I spend a lot of time really trying to think about what it is what's inspired me, and thinking about what it is I want to end up with. But bearing in mind there's an element of chance of what might come up. This one was taken for the 1212 project. I'm a member of the 1212 project, which is 12 photographers shooting to 12 months of the year, everyone picks a theme. And I was invited to be part of that group, which I was really pleased, but I was also dead anxious. So I was really nervous, and this was the first shot for I think it was January last year. For me, multiple exposures as well, when I think about them, I think they're like visual mathematics. That's how I think of it. It's like visual maths. So I always try and think about, I suppose, whatever format we're working with photography, we get used to what the frame's going to look like. So I always try and consider the composition, that kind of visual element. So for this, it was an elevated shot, and me at the side. Obviously, you don't see the ones that don't work and the ones that I keep going. And I'll talk about how you use the manual as well on the manual mode on Polaroid, which gives you a lot of control. So that was the first one, and actually a lot of people have responded quite positively to that picture, so that's been quite nice for me. This is another one, same sort of thing, that visual kind of maths. I tend to try and want to fill a frame with one image, and then do a second double over it. Sometimes they work. I think what Kate said, sometimes you can come out and you think, oh, that composition's really good, and other times I might cut my head off, or you're too much this way, and that's why I kind of work by doing. I will keep going until I sort of get something I'm quite pleased with. One thing that I was really bad at, which I'm trying to turn it around, was quite often I was just getting into that zone that we all probably do when we're working, and you can spend a couple of hours creating an image, and then I'm like, I didn't record any of the settings, I haven't done what I was on, so if I had to go do it again, I have to start the whole process. Whereas if I'm in a dark room, I will write down. So I've started now to write everything, write on the actual, if they're Polaroid, write what settings they were on, and as I go through, until I get something that I like. Again, I do use filters. Not everyone likes filters. I will stick sometimes actual filters on my camera or make my own bits of acetate over the lens. Again, this was for the 1212 project, a theme fragile. I think it's okay, although I can see now, I wanted the second one. It's just cutting my nose off. It would have been nicer maybe for me if it was a bit lower down. Again, this was a 1212 project. This was a real, for me, a real labour of love. The theme was blurred lines, and I knew straight away that I wanted to do light trails. So I spent 2 nights in where I live, in the village, learning to do light trails basically, until I got something that I liked and I worked out the settings. Then I kind of had an idea in my head, and then it's actually a bridge, because I live on an island, so this is the bridge. It's really, really brightly lit. So I did some light trails with that, with another one of myself. But I do use lights as well, because as we know, Polaroid cameras, they suck light, and so I will use actual LEDs as well to really boost that place. I like, personally, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I like the chemical stuff that goes on with Polaroid. Sometimes you can have those happy accidents. If you use Polaroid, you'll know that sometimes the chemicals can leak out into your rollers, and you should always clean them. And if you leave them gunk up so far, you'll think the camera's broken. Sometimes I had that. I thought I was using the SX70 once, I thought the camera's broken, but it was just gunk. But also, sometimes I like to leave a bit of the chemicals on my rollers, because I think you can get some of the nice sort of lining effects that can come out. This was Polaroid had brought out, I don't know if people use it, have one. They have that instant lab, which I think is geared at, basically you can take photos off your phone and put it through an instant lab. This one was 35mm double exposure that I put through the instant lab, so it was like analog and analog. I just wanted to see if it would enhance it, what it would be like. So that's another tool, if you like, that you can use. So this is kind of an example. So if anyone works in the dark room, you'll know you do your test strip, and you might split grade your image. until you're happy with the exposure. This was when I was in France last summer, and I was in my hotel room. And this is my kind of Polaroid test shots, if you like, on the manual mode. If you can do double exposures on ordinary cameras. You can hold the button down, open and close the camera, and then take a second shot. You can, but if you have particularly the Polaroid One Step 2 Plus with the app, it gives you a lot of control on the manual mode. You can meter your shots, you can play with, if you want a perfect exposed shot, take it on 0, but then you can play with 1 down, 2 down. And it's really about trying until you get something along with your composition. So this is kind of my test shots. I did that one on bulb, and so I quite like to try test if I'm in hotel rooms. So that was just like a test. This one again, this was when I was in Barcelona last time when I had some time. I was experimenting with, on the manual mode, doing it on the app, because your choices on One Step Plus, you can do it all manually, but they actually have the double exposure app as well. And this was on the double exposure app, and I was trying to just do some experiments with lights. Again, that's another one straight out of the double app. And this one was opening and shutting there. That was a spectra. I like spectra. So those are like Polaroids. The other ones I like, and I just wanted to include these, is holder cameras and dialer cameras. This is a body of work I did 10 years ago, so I can see it's not perfect. But I really want to get back to doing some doubles on these cameras because I do think they bring a lot of magic. This was with slide film and cross process. It's quite well known, but if no one's ever done multiple exposures before, it's about shooting with your bicycle, shooting with it, and then sending it off to a lab and getting it cross processed. This was for a band in Wales. They're not brilliant, but I really like the colours. That's probably more than a double exposure. I think some of them. When I first started as well, I think my images were quite random, and so now I'm trying to be a bit more controlled in the random and the chaos. So that's another avenue. And I think if you use slide film, this is Manchester, some double exposures in Manchester, you get nice vivid colours, which is what I really like. That's another one. And then finally, so I'm whizzing through the question, is if you work in a dark room, you can create double exposures in there. Of like Kay, you can do them in camera, and then you can process and develop your own film there. Or some people will sandwich the negatives on one larger. I find that really difficult. So I made this in the dark room, basically from 2 shots. Basically, I did it in the dark room, and it was quite a journey. So kind of that was one shot, and then it was like the trees on top. When I look at that, I can see that the trees, the blacks are quite blacked up. I can see that, but it's one of my favourite ones I ever made in the dark room. But you can see here, if you can see, there was a journey with it, because you can see I was trying. Composition's terrible, and then I got it a bit more over. So it's just that kind of putting time in and working at prints until you get something that you're satisfied with. Because I think it's important that we all do it. We work to a picture or an image that we're happy with, whatever that might be. And that's it really. I did a couple more in the dark pieces. Another variation of that, which I did in the dark room, but I bleached it. And you can see that it's not as covered in trees. And then if you do work in a dark room, this was another image I did in the dark room. It's not a double, but if you use do splash on your developer, I think it can give you some nice textures that can create a kind of doubly look. And then, I mean, you can go to town, depending what paper you use in the darkroom. I like to with Leicester paper because I think that if you want to handle your images afterwards, it gives you more freedom. So that's all I was going to talk about really, and get over those questions because I'm running out of time.
So yeah, does anyone have any questions for any of us?
You already told us, but I forgot which are the cameras you use that allow you to do the market.
What I use is a Nikon F100, Nikon FM2 and Nikon F3. So the Nikon FM2 and F3 both have switches on the cameras, and the F100 has a dial. And I have a friend who also has issues with this sometimes. Sometimes you forget to turn the dial off. So you can have like a 30 exposure, be like, why is my film not advancing? I do recommend the F100 though, because it is a professional camera, and I have used it for more like actual paint shoots and that sort of thing. But if you want to get started, the FM2 is an excellent camera to start doing multi-exposures in camera, so you don't have to do the big one effect or anything like that.
Really stupid question. I actually have an FM2. Didn't realise it had that switch on it. So
Yeah!
where is it?
Do you want to pick it up? Like, let's have a look. Where is it? Oh, do you
I've been doing it like old school.
There's a switch there. So, if it's an FM2?
Yeah, it's an FM2. Maybe it's an older one.
Okay, let's have a quick look. Ooh, you're an actor. Yeah, it's that. So what you got to do, if anyone has this camera, is when you take a picture, you hold it down while you advance, and that's how you do a double exposure.
Oh, I've been doing it like a proper 3D way, pushing that in and then.
Oh no, but I've got some way of doing it. Thank you. Yeah.
This question is also for you because you shoot Nikon and you mentioned the anchor points, and I'm wondering, because some of the anchor points were excellent in the center, so you have like this focusing prism, you have a reference, but some of them were not in the center. So the question is, do you have a focus screen with grid, or do you have a grid?
Yeah, so when I say anchor point, you know how some cameras, viewfinders have these little grids inside them. I'll use those sometimes to line up, and not every time is perfect, and sometimes it's just because I may have stepped to the side a little bit, or something like that. So I should have explained a little bit more clearly with doing the architecture shots. Is don't move, like stay still, hold your breath if you want to be completely still. But yeah, sometimes I go off center, literally take a step to the side or something like that.
No, but I was more impressed actually with the eyes and the lights.
Oh,
that was really,
thank you.
in my mind, if I wanted to do that, it would be a hazard if I don't put it in the center of the eye.
Yeah, that's it. So that one, those ones with the eyes, again, I am actually lining up. So I have the models, like, you know how in the viewfinder you have like the dot in the center, or you have those little marks in the viewfinder. I would line up the models one eye with that one as well. And then when it comes to the second shot, the lights, I would use the anchor point the marker for me to line it up. So use what you got in the camera as well.
Those ones were made with the Nikon F100?
Yeah, that one, yeah, those are the ones would have been on my F100 in Japan, yeah. That's the only one I had.
For the FM2 is quite difficult to appropriate the focus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Do you actually edit them? I mean, the scans? Not like that you put some new stuff in it, but I don't know, some adjustments.
I'll probably clean up the photo, but I mean, you know, do a tiny bit of like color correction, just like, so it's not a flat scan, but nothing's been merged together in Photoshop. Everything's done in the camera for my photographs.
Sure, I mean, just like, I don't know, contrast or anything.
Oh, yeah. So, I think you should do that, because some labs just do a really horrible scan and then edit them. I'm not against editing your negatives at all, and editing your scans. I think it's important too, because then it adds to your own style. I don't change like the colours dramatically or anything like that. It's more my way of colour correction and contrast correction as well. So some pictures may appear a little bit different, but other than that, it's just like a little bit of tweaking and just a bit of correction, that's it. Everything else has been edited like crazy. Any other questions for us?
So for you.
Okay.
I was wondering about your film list, I tried to run some of them.
Okay.
I got Synesthetic and empty.
Yeah.
Relax.
So Revelog, so it's REVELOG, and my favourite film by them is 600 NM, and they are a independent company from Austria, and it's a couple, and they're very lovely. I highly recommend checking them out. I believe they've also taken on Double Film, which is spelled DUBBLE. So they work in the same lab now, so they have this device called the Reanimator, which they won't ever show anyone. Basically, they run bulk film through the animator and add these effects to the film. There's also another double exposure film called Kota. I'm probably saying it wrong. COTO. They do a lot of double exposure films as well, so if you want a pre-exposed film, worth checking them out. They do quite cute like dog pools and this kind of things. Yeah, Cine Still is my go-to. I love Fujifilm. I have used a lot of expired film as well. Yeah.
So is it like Superior for anyone?
Yes, yeah. So when I was in Japan, like, God, they can throw it at you and not much you can get out there. So Superior is an excellent film to use as well. I am a little bit wary of using expired films just because some chemicals are really foggy. And for testing for using film, I always use a very low ISO, so I don't typically go any lower than 400. 100 is excellent for double exposures. Even with Cine Still, that's just really great for light, but because with slower films, it absorbs more a little bit, and with really fast films, this is really, you can get quite like a flat effect with it. So low ISO films is a great way to start. Cine Still also has their 50 ISO film, which is daylight, and it's gorgeous. It's such a good film. So I highly recommend using that if you want to get some daytime double exposures.
Which one?
Cine Still 50 is their daylight film. Yeah.
Which one do you use for night photography? Is it the Cine Still?
Cine Still, Lomography's 800
Oh yeah, that
film.
was good, yeah.
It's a really good film, isn't it? Portrait also has 800 as well, which is a really good film.
And I have a question for Claire about working with doing self-portrait and working with your own body.
Yeah.
Do you always work by yourself, or do you ask somebody else to assist? Because I think it's really hard to have this to photograph yourself and have yourself at the proper place in the frame and.
I'm mostly alone, yeah. I suppose I just got used to it. If I shoot outside, for instance these things, like that, if I'm shooting outside, I've got different things that I use. So I've got a fishing rod, a fishing net, which is roughly the same size as me, so I can frame myself like that and work out, and then push myself out of the shot because I use timers. Otherwise, I get used to it, but sometimes it is trial and error. So if you're using Polaroid, you can see, and I'll think, I need to go more left. I need to come closer. Because if you work with Polaroid, you'll know you really need the camera really close. I have had some shots that have been really quite tricky, and I'll set them up, and I might have a friend, and I'll say, can you do it? But mostly I work alone. I'm the timers.
For Claire, also, do you have any modification to your camera? For example, the light meter in the Polaroid or something?
No, I use, if I don't use a velvet light, I use light rigs to really sort of saturate my images. I put filters on sometimes. sometimes actual filters, you know, for the Polaroid cameras, sometimes my own made ones. Yeah, so.
Thanks.
For the exposures that you use, you know, the double exposure, sometimes we do like 3 or 4. For the measurement of the exposure, the f-stop and
Oh, yes.
how you calculate that, because I was thinking, wow, how it doesn't come overexposed.
So it would be like a high f-stop, sort of like, depending on the lens that you use, so probably 16-22. Yeah, because if you use like a very low one, you're going to get like a lot of depth of field, it's going to be blurry. So that's kind of the trick for the environment architectural ones, is to have a high f-stop going. So it's a bit faster, and that way you can get a lot, you can do the 4 time exposures as well.
So you have to have a lot of also.
I would say that.
Is it somewhere like sunset?
Yeah, if it's sunset, it would be probably, so if it's sunset, it would be like a 60 second shutter, so it would be not 60. But you know, like it would be still quite fast, but still get the light in. Again, it's just me trying to see what works for you. I try and keep them quite fast in regards to shutter speed, so you don't get that blur. So again, it's just kind of testing what is going to work for you. With the like quadruple, the 4 time exposures, it is just worth testing it and just seeing what it's like, the environment is like, and making sure that you just, the most important thing is making sure the shutter speed isn't too slow. That's the primary thing. And once it's, I need it to be like a tiny bit underexposed, and that's where you can like build it up quite well, because if it's too high, it just washes the like whole image out.
So you probably by now know more or less how it works, right?
Yeah.
Because before probably you have already like some overexposure.
Yeah, like Claire says, I don't exactly sure the ones that didn't work. So. Okay, any more questions for us?
For Mathieu, so first you aligned the pictures in Photoshop, right? And then you use grading tool using masks or?
To remove some parts, I will use masks, but I try to play around first by using the screen mode to see where it works, and then I remove everything that is too much in the image with masks.
You work like with instant photography, but for example, like yesterday you had like a 3D big print. Can you describe your process from the
I had a big, sorry.
big print?
Oh, in the exhibition.
Yeah, like can you describe your process going from instant to big prints?
What I spoke about there, so I mean, I could take one of those shots you saw there, the one with the light shows, for instance. That took 10 packs of film to get that. Yeah, trying to get it right and working through it. So it's what I said, playing with manual mode, working on composition, using light if I have to, LEDs. Once I've got Polaroid and I like it, it's simply I scan it up very high res. That was scanned up, it was sent here. Print it out onto diamond. I don't. I would like. I've got an exhibition where I was in March, and so I won't do bigger than 50/50. Sorry, am I answering your question? Or I'm not answering your question. Sorry.
No, you're
yeah.
But is it like tricky, like to do the scan or like?
Oh, to do the scan? No, because I've got a scanner, so I'll scan it up really high res. Mathieu was saying, I'll clean the image up, so because it's going to go big, so I'll take off, any dust. I'll obviously keep my scanner and clean the Polaroid before it goes on quite often, because it's going to go really quite big, like in the thing. I have to really make sure there's no dust or anything on it, because it really shows up. It might take me a good hour. In fact, recently I was scanning up, but I don't know if my computer is dying. But it took me 2 hours to do a scan, on really high res, and then it might take me another 50 minutes to clean it up, to really go through it, to make sure that there's no no dust basically, or hair when it comes back. Because mostly it's okay, but like I blew a print at once 50-50, and then when it came back, I hadn't been as diligent maybe as I could have been, and there was like big hair, like, you know, really had to redo it. Yeah, so it's just time.
In the dark room, is it, well, the only way I try to do double exposures in the dark room is like putting two negatives and larger. I didn't get how you did it without doing this.
Basically, so I had two separate negatives. So one was that, and the other one was the trees. So I was working on one enlarger, but I had two separate negative trays, and I would split grade, you know, that one, till I got an exposure I was happy with, do the trees, and then kind of, again, intuit, maybe underexpose and work out and bits of dodging and burning. So I was kind of, so this was my enlarger here. I put the negative for that in first, expose down, then take it out and put the tree one in. It was the tree one, you can see that it took me a while because you can see it wasn't lined up well. Once I got it in the negative holder, I wouldn't move it, and then I just keep working till I had something that I was happy with on the print, and you know, it's burning and touching. That's how I do them, because I find that salvaging the two negatives together, I think it's quite tricky. But we're all different. I don't know, maybe some people think it's really, really simple.
But did you have to use longer exposure times with the second negative?
I can't remember, what did I say I did, because I wrote on it. I was, well, this was when I was on my journey, and I've got 25 seconds on the tree on 2.5, 8 seconds on the face on 5, so I was probably writing down as I go, and then thinking, okay, I need to, you know, dodge that bit, and just keep going. That's something, though, I feel like I'm quite poor at, and I want to improve on that, so really writing down every setting I do and monitoring the journey so that I don't have to start and put all of them again.
Okay, any more questions for us?
There's one for Mathieu. I don't know if I will answer my own question, but it's so you said like you were like taking like 3 pictures, like with 3 different like color channels, like. But if you took only 1 picture, you could also like separate the color channel, like in Photoshop. Are you taking like 3 pictures, like to take advantage of imperfection?
Yeah, so I take 3 pictures with 3 different filters, and that's the micro movements between the image that create the artifacts. If you take 1 image and you separate the 3 layers, you just move the same image and you create the artifacts, but they are not magical, or you don't have the surprise effect. But because you move, you don't really know all the errors or the building behind will react. So you have one version which is really technical and one version which is more fun and can have some surprise.
Okay.
And the filters give the image a different look because you have some light leaks and cool stuff.
And you mentioned then you made like a kind of cardboard like filter, like with 3 filters. Like you just like took like some circular filter, like and
no, like plastic, just the cheapest thing possible, red, green, blue, and put a cardboard structure. And when I shoot,
just go like that.
Yeah, when I shoot the model, I say 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And I tell the person to move or not move, that she knows that you have to stay at not moving too much for 3 pictures. Because if she go out of the frame, then you have ghost, the green ghost or blue ghost.
Okay.
It could be cool.
Okay, any more questions? Because we do have to finish up because we have to attend the manifesto in about 15 minutes. So just have anybody else got any more questions for any of us? No? Okay, cool then. Thank you so much.